Ever feel like you're navigating a minefield when that performance improvement plan lands on your desk? We're diving deep into the world of PIPs today, and trust me, understanding the subtext is everything.
It's true. A PIP can feel like a punch to the gut, but it's not always the career death sentence people assume.
Okay, so for anyone who's lucky enough to have avoided this experience so far, let's break down why understanding the subtext of a PIP is so important.
Think of it this way. A PIP is often a company's last attempt to kind of course correct before considering more drastic measures, like letting someone go. It's a formal process, often with documentation, specific goals, and a timeline for improvement.
So there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, right?
Exactly. And that's where those seemingly harmless phrases your manager uses can actually reveal a lot. It's like they're speaking in code.
And our source material has cracked the code. It dives into these common phrases managers use and what they really mean. Like, for instance, we've noticed some gaps in your performance. What's the hidden message there?
It sounds gentle, but it's often a way of saying we're documenting areas where you're falling short of expectations. They're creating a paper trail, and you need to be aware of that.
Okay, so how should someone respond in that situation?
Don't just passively accept it. This is an opportunity for you to take control. Ask for specific examples. What exact metrics are being used to measure performance? What does good performance look like in their eyes?
It's about getting on the same page and making sure everyone is crystal clear on expectations.
Exactly. Now, another common phrase is, let's create a plan together. Sounds collaborative, right?
Sure, but I bet there's more to it.
Absolutely. The subtext often is, we're setting the terms here, and you need to prove you're taking this seriously. Your move. Don't just agree to whatever they suggest. Come prepared with your own ideas, timelines that are realistic, and a genuine understanding of what's expected.
Show them you're not just along for the ride, you're in the driver's seat, even in a PIP.
Yeah.
Now, what about when a manager says they want to see more initiative? On the surface, it's like, okay, I can step it up, but what's the underlying message?
Often, it means your contributions aren't being perceived as valuable beyond the bare minimum. It's time to become indispensable. Think about your company's current priorities. Are there projects you can propose that align with those needs and showcase your skills? That's initiative they'll notice.
So it's not just about working harder, it's about being strategic and showing them you understand the bigger picture. I love that. Now, what about when a manager says, I'm here to help you succeed? That sounds incredibly supportive. Is there a catch?
There often is. It's great they're offering support, but remember, there are limits. What they're also saying is, my time and resources are valuable, and I need to see tangible progress.
So how do you leverage their support effectively without getting caught off guard?
Communication is key. Don't just disappear into a corner and hope for the best. Schedule regular check-ins with your manager, even if it's just for 15 minutes. Come prepared with updates on your progress, and most importantly, ask for specific feedback.
So keep those lines of communication open and make sure you're both on the same page throughout the process. But what happens when the message gets a little less encouraging? Like, this isn't about your long-term future with the company. It's about improving your current performance.
That's where things get really interesting. While it sounds like they're downplaying the situation, the reality is your future at the company is likely hanging in the balance. This is their way of saying, we need to see significant improvement, or we may have to consider other options, which could include letting you go.
That's a tough pill to swallow. So how should someone respond when they hear those words?
First, take a deep breath. It's natural to feel a mix of emotions, but don't panic. This is the time to get crystal clear on what you want and what you're willing to fight for.
So we've talked about the importance of decoding your manager's language and taking proactive steps, but let's get even more practical. What are some power moves people can make when they're on a PIP?
One of the most crucial things you can do, and I can't emphasize this enough, is to document everything.
Everything, like every email, every conversation, every deadline.
Precisely. Think of it like building a fortress of facts. Keep a detailed log of every interaction related to your PIP. Meetings, emails, feedback from your manager or colleagues, tasks assigned, goals achieved, write it all down.
Okay, so it's not just about tracking your progress, it's about protecting yourself too.
Absolutely. If there's ever a disagreement about expectations, deadlines, or even something as simple as the tone of a conversation, you'll have a clear record to refer back to.
It's like having receipts for your performance. You can point to specific instances and say, here's the feedback I received, here's how I addressed it.
Exactly. And speaking of addressing feedback, remember those gaps in performance we talked about earlier. Don't be afraid to ask for concrete examples and crystal clear expectations.
So it's not enough to just know there are areas for improvement. You need to understand exactly what those areas are and what's considered good in that context.
Right. What does success look like for this particular skill or task? What specific metrics are they using to measure your performance? Don't be shy about asking for clarification. It shows you're taking this seriously and that you're invested in improving.
It's about getting everyone on the same page from the get-go. Now, we also talked about taking initiative. How can someone choose the right projects or tasks to really showcase their skills during a PIP?
This is where a little bit of strategic thinking goes a long way. Take some time to research your company's current priorities. What are the biggest challenges facing your team or department? Are there any upcoming projects that align with your skill set?
So do your homework. Understand the playing field.
Exactly. Once you have a good grasp of the landscape, identify opportunities where you can make a tangible impact. Don't just choose tasks because they're easy or familiar. Look for projects that allow you to showcase your ability to solve problems, think creatively, and add value to the company.
It's about being a problem solver, not just a task completer. And while you're tackling these projects, don't forget about the power of regular communication.
Absolutely. One of the worst things you can do during a PIP is to disappear into a silo and emerge weeks later with a finished product. Keep your manager in the loop. Share your progress, highlight any challenges you're encountering, and most importantly, don't be afraid to ask for help or guidance along the way.
It's about treating your manager as an ally in this process, not just a judge and jury.
Exactly. And during those check-in meetings, come prepared with specific questions about your performance. What's working well? What could be improved? Are there any resources or training programs that could help you develop specific skills?
It's about showing them you're proactive, you're engaged, and you're committed to growth. But let's face it, sometimes despite your best efforts, it can feel like the writing is on the wall. Like maybe your job is on the line. How do you know when it's time to start planning for that possibility?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, there's no easy answer, but there are some signs you can watch out for, and that's what we'll dive into next.
So we've covered a lot of ground, from decoding your manager's words to taking strategic action during a PIP. But let's get real. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, that dreaded what if creeps in. What if, despite doing everything right, it still feels like your job might be on the line?
It's a tough reality, but you're right. Sometimes a PIP is a precursor to letting someone go, regardless of the effort put in. That's why it's crucial to be emotionally prepared for any outcome, even while you're giving the PIP your all.
So how can someone tell if it might be time to start looking at other options, just in case? What are some signs that maybe things aren't headed in the right direction?
It's a combination of gut feeling and tangible signs. Maybe your manager's feedback, while technically positive, feels distant or impersonal, or perhaps you're being excluded from key meetings and decisions that you were once a part of.
Those are subtle but definitely noticeable shifts, like the energy around you has changed.
Exactly. And while these signs alone might not mean the worst-case scenario is inevitable, they're a signal to start prepping yourself for possibilities.
So it's not about giving up on the PIP, but about being practical and prepared. What are some concrete steps someone can take?
Dust off that resume. Update it to reflect your recent accomplishments and make sure it highlights the skills you've been showcasing during the PIP network discreetly. Start having conversations with trusted contacts in your field, letting them know you're open to exploring new opportunities.
It's about being proactive and not letting fear paralyze you. It's easier said than done, but having those feelers out there can be empowering.
Absolutely. And remember, even if it does come down to leaving your current role, it's not a failure. Sometimes a PIP, even one that doesn't end in your favor, can be a valuable wake-up call.
What do you mean by that?
It can be a chance to step back and really examine your career path. Are you still passionate about the work you're doing? Are your skills being utilized to their fullest potential? This can be an opportunity to pivot, to explore new industries, or even to consider starting your own venture.
It's about reframing the narrative. Instead of seeing a PIP as an ending, view it as a chance for a new beginning, one that aligns more closely with your goals and aspirations.
Exactly. And remember, throughout this entire process, knowledge is your greatest asset. Understand the unspoken language of PIPs, advocate for yourself, document everything, and be prepared to pivot if needed.
This has been incredibly eye-opening. For anyone listening who's currently facing a PIP, remember, You're not alone in this. It's a challenging experience, but by understanding the subtext, taking strategic action, and prioritizing your well-being, you can navigate this situation with confidence and emerge stronger on the other side, no matter the outcome.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.